It's got to be a little higher, I guess. So my first crush started out with a good deal of violence. In the 3rd grade, Carolyn, every day at recess, Carolyn would run up to me and just kick me in the shins. Like over and over again, just pow, 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 pow. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't hit her back. And I didn't know why she was doing it, and I didn't really think to ask, and so I just kept it to myself, and I just suffered, like every day I knew it was coming, and every day she would run up to me, pow, 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 kick me in the shins. Finally, like weeks later, my mom noticed my legs, and they were really black and blue all the way, and she asked me what happened, and I told her, and she said to me, if she keeps doing that, Dave, you're gonna have to hit her back. She forgot to tell me to ask her to stop. So I just waited around. She kept kicking me in the shins, and a couple days later, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to hit her back. So she kicked me in the shins, and I went poof, and I pushed her by the shoulders. And she flew backwards, hit her head on a rock, blood went everywhere. She went off to the hospital. She had to have like 7 or 8 stitches in the back of her head. That was the last time I ever hit a girl. That was in 3rd grade. And but she didn't stop liking me. In the 4th grade, Carolyn and I we would kiss for a nickel. People would pay us a nickel, and I would run over her desk, and we would have a quick kiss, and then I would run back. And, man, I thought this probably should last forever. I was digging that. But it didn't. As we grew a little bit older, we got to 6th grade, middle school, and I grew very tall, and tall middle school students, as you know, are quite gangly and uncoordinated, and all the short guys were getting the girls. And I was very jealous of the short guys, and Carolyn was very beautiful, and she was going with a short guy, not me. So my middle school was built in the 40s, and it maintained that culture no matter what. So gym class was just, right out of 1948. There were uniforms. You had it was white shorts and a blue shirt, and for the boys, a jockstrap. And you had to run in, and you had to be fast. You had to get to the bins and grab those things and run back to your locker and change, and you had to be fast to get a good fitting uniform. If you got one that was too big, it would fall down in gym class, and nobody wanted that. That's really embarrassing when you're trying to do a layup and your pants fall down. And if you got one that was too small, then other people would affectionately call you a plum smuggler. Or in Maine, sometimes you'd be sporting a moose knuckle. Male version of a camel toe. So you had to get a good uniform, and then you had to go down to the gym, and the boys did the boy things, and the girls did the girl things, and they were very different and very separate, but in the same space. And so one day, the boys were going on the mini trampoline. And so we would run up and bounce on the mini trampoline and then do something, a flip or whatever, and land on the big soft mat and then go get back in line. Now the girls were lined up to go on the uneven parallel bars. And they were lined up, I noticed, right along the big soft mat. And I thought, this is going to be good. So, when it was my turn, I ran as hard as I could, and I got as much air on the mini tramp as I possibly could. Boing! And I flew up into the air, and I twisted sideways towards the girl. And remember, I'm wearing a jock strap. I whipped my shorts down and flew right down the line, showing a perfect moon to everybody. I have to tell you, it was glorious. It was just perfect. Years later, I streaked the high school stage, and really I was just trying to relive the glory of the middle school flying moon. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I was still in the air. seemed I was in the air forever, and I knew the gym teacher, Mr. Dankos, had seen this, and I was in a great deal of trouble. And it really didn't matter at all. I was just flying right down the line, and you can't not look when somebody's butt is flying by a little over head height. You can't, it was great. So as I started to descend in my arc, I thought, time to pull up my pants. Unfortunately, my thumb was caught in the jock strap. I didn't pull up the pants, and I also didn't get my feet under me, so I twisted sideways and landed on my arm, breaking it cleanly at the elbow, with my pants still in. So I got up, and I pulled my pants like this, and my arm was just starting to swell like you wouldn't believe, and the uniform was almost ripping. My arm was just boom, boom, boom. Now, in my household, we had a very peculiar rule. It's a good rule, and I tried to teach it to my own kids with a little less success than my father did. It's, if your feelings are hurt, go ahead and cry all you want, no big deal. But if you're physically harmed, don't shed a tear until you can tell somebody what's wrong. So I kept that rule, man. The worst possible things would happen, and I would just stoically get up and walk over and say, "Yep, broke my arm." And I thought I was doing good. So, but Mr. Dankos didn't know the rule. So I was I was ready to go up to the office and call my mom. My arm was broke. I knew my arm was broken. It was enormous and in a lot of pain. And Mr. Dankos was standing right in the way. He was like, "Where are you going, mister?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go call the office because my arm's broke." And he said, "No, your arm's not broke. You'd be crying." And I was like, "Mr. Dankos, I'm not supposed to cry if I'm hurt. I have to tell you what's wrong." He's like, "Nope, you could not handle it. You would be crying if your arm was broke." I said, "Mr. Dankos, really, please, I have to go." He said, "No, you're going to stay right here and suffer the consequences. I saw what you did." So I had to juke him out. So I faked to the left, faked to the right, got around him, ran up the stairs. Every step was agony. Boom, 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 my arms. And I ran up the hall, I ran down the hall, I ran into the office, and there was a phone there for students to use. And Mr. Dankos was hot on my heels. And it was a rotary phone. You guys remember rotary phones? So I had to go zhook, click, 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 zhook, click, 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 click. Mr. Dankos was coming fast. Luckily, in my small town, we only had to dial 4 numbers to get anyone. So I dialed my home phone, and my mom picked up, and I said, "Mom, my arm's broke. You should come get me." And then Mr. Dankos grabbed the phone out of me and hung it up. But I was cool, because that was all I needed to do. I knew my mom was on the way, because she would believe me. And he started yelling at me, and he brought me into the principal's office, and the principal heard the story, and he was not happy either. The vice principal of the middle school, I swear, wore down the first 3 fingers of his hand an inch on my chest alone over the years, just poke, 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 poke. He thought that I thought I was smart. "You think you're so smart," over and over again. But my mom showed up, and she raised a ruckus, and that was always, I have to say, I sometimes acted out just so they would have to call my mom, because man, she was going to take my side no matter what I did. She was going to yell at somebody, and this time she had a really good reason. So she burst in and said, "I demand my son right off, or how dare you?" And my arm was just, woof. We went up to the hospital, and yeah, it was broken. And so I got it all, it was in a cast and whatnot, and then I had to go to school the next day. And I was really, really looking forward to that. I was going to wave that cast in Mr. Dankos' face like you wouldn't believe. But it turns out Carolyn wasn't at all impressed with the flying moon. But she was very impressed with the broken arm. So I didn't wave my cast in Mr. Dan Cause's face. I was too busy holding hands.